how to find the truth. In my previous video, I shared how to find the truth through thought experiment, through studying of history and real examples of such real examples like biography or true experiments by others. And also I stressed the fear of the Lord and prayer are very important. Today I want to add two other things that will help us to find the truth and not be easily misled by anyone else. One thing is to hear from all sides. Many people, especially those who are confined in a certain group, for example, if they like certain preacher, they always listen to this preacher. And if such preacher, they don't even open the comments section in the YouTube channel, it's very hard for the listeners to hear any other voice. So that's a trap, that's a pity. I learned more. Recently, I began to realize I learned more from the comments, from those so-called unofficial websites like Reddit, Quora, all these so-called grassroots websites. I learned more truth from these voices from the ground than all the messages I heard from those preachers. You see, truth cannot be hidden if the viewers, those who making voice, the pool of such speakers are large enough, there are bound to be someone who see differently. There are bound to be many who speak mischievously or just making a fool out of themselves. But they're also bound to have someone who speak sincerely, speak the truth they have seen, hoping to bring some benefit to the viewers. So this is one thing. We have to open our eyes, be willing to hear voices from all sides. Actually, as much as possible. It is, I believe, Donald Trump who said there's no such thing as over exploring. Yeah. When we explore all voices, only by then we know whether the truth we are holding on can pass the test. It sounds dangerous. It sounds too liberal, but that's the only way to verify, to test the truth, or rather to even find the truth we are yet to find. That is through hearing voices from the mass, from the whole population. Because God being a God of all human beings, He is kind, He is true to anyone who sincerely seek Him. They're bound to have people who have truth, to have seen the truth, who are willing to share. So this is one thing. Another very important thing is, I think, people like Elon Musk, actually engineers, many of them good engineers, they know this one thing. we have to always go back to the first principle. The first principle. If we read how Elon Musk made the $1 billion rocket launching to become a commercially affordable, is through his first principle of the manufacturing. So in terms of salvation, in terms of biblical truth, in terms of seeking truth for this life, going back to the first principle is also important. Yesterday, or rather the day before, I watched a clip. The speaker was talking about how today's theological school graduate cannot stay on the job. Means they are assigned to be a pastor to some rural area, but they cannot stay on because of not enough income for their family and all that. Well, what he said is a phenomenon, is a fact. Okay, we cannot deny that. But if we look a bit further, a bit deeper, we go back to the first principle. What is a true servant of God? What is gospel? What is the calling of God? We will soon see that these theological school students, actually, they already are following the ways of the world. They take studying in such theological schools just as another profession. They treat the calling of God just as another profession. That is I think, a fatal mistake, because the calling of God and choosing a career is totally two different matters. If today's pastors, it's a pity actually, many of them treat being a pastor as a profession, as a career, and worst of all, many of them think they can become rich or they can have a stable job income by being a pastor. That is very unfortunate. That's a pity, and that's a devil's scheme when God's people follow the ways of the world. So you see, when we hear such a report about theological school graduates, they don't stay on their pastoral job, we have to go back to the first principle of the calling of God and why we have to preach the gospel. What made them preach the gospel? You can refer to my post. I made quite a number of other comments about such facts. It's all because we refuse to go back to the first principle, but rather we agree with the speaker that being a pastor, have a calling of God to preach the gospel, to become a servant of God, is just another choice of one's career. That's a fatal mistake. So guys, regarding seeking truth, we have to open our eyes, open our ears, be willing to hear from all people, because that's the only way to test our truth can pass the question of others, and also to hopefully along the way we can find further truth. Another thing is we have to go back to the first principle. We have, like someone said, we have to get to the bottom of it. We have to get to the bottom of it in terms of life, in terms of truth.